The London Transport Museum has opened its doors to the public once more after a major transformation that has cost £22.4 million and taken 2 years to complete. The former Covent Garden Victorian Flower Market has housed the museum since 1980. Today, after a long period of closure, the magnificent glass and Victorian building has been overhauled to showcase the museum's vast collection. The exhibition tells the rich story of transport in London, from the first buses to the present day, and what the future might hold.
We wanted to create a new sort of museum display which took different things into account. And in particular, we were looking to show people that a transport museum is not just about the nuts and bolts of vehicles. It's about, in our view, in a city, it's about the way in which a transport system is absolutely fundamental. It's the lifeblood of a world city anywhere. London is a world city, it's a leading world city, and we wanted to be able to show how transport has affected the development of London, will continue to do so in the future, and how that compares with other cities around the world.
The railways boom in the 1830s saw routes arriving in London from all over the UK, connecting the countryside with the city. But while it was much quicker to get to London, increased populations in the capital created heavy congestion on the street. In 1860, work started on the first underground line, which would travel under the city to help solve the problem. Cut and cover construction was used to build the Metropolitan line, which was London's first underground line designed to link the suburbs with 3 of the capital's mainline stations. And the first underground train ran on steam. This model, Metropolitan number 23, is the only surviving engine from that time. It included ladies-only carriages, as ladies travelled to and from the suburbs for a day's shopping in the West End. Maps showed the stations on the line and the different fares to each.
A lot of people know, for example, that London had the first underground railway in the world, but they don't realise that they had steam trains on there. And one of the most surprising exhibits to many people when they come here is to see that steam locomotive that we've got here, which dates back to 1866. It's really old, and people can't quite believe that that actually ran on the London Underground and continued to do so right up until the 1900s when they electrified it.
Electricity led to the development of London's first deep-level underground lines, such as the City and South London, the Waterloo and City, and the Central Line. This is a simulator of a modern Jubilee Line train, which are used to teach real underground drivers. Visitors to the museum can try their hand at driving a tube and discover that it's not always as easy as it looks.
We're in a cab of a Jubilee Line simulator. The idea is it replicates as closely as possible a Jubilee Line train and has some of the safety features, such as the dead man's handle, which when you let go, the train will actually stop. It's meant to show how difficult it is to drive a train. You can go through the tunnel, through stations, and the idea is to actually line up with the end of the platform and open the doors.
Buses and trams were another important element of London's transport system. This horse-drawn tram could carry up to 26 people through Victorian London. They offered low fares and were important to many working-class Londoners. But the invention of the motorbus quickly made horsepower redundant. This B-type bus was designed by Frank Searle in 1910.
We've got one of the first reliable motor buses here, which were introduced in London in 1910. They were called the B-type bus, and that was the bus equivalent of Henry Ford's famous Model T car. It's an incredibly reliable motor bus, and they were so good that they replaced all of the horse buses, which was what everything was pulled by in London, within a year.
The growing transport network allowed people to move into the suburbs and commute to their place of work. Local rail lines, coach services and the expansion of the underground led to a boom in suburban development. Places such as Hampstead, Golders Green and Surbiton were appealing and convenient for the middle classes. Design was also a key part of transport development and a unique design culture built up around it. This tube map was designed by Harry Beck in 1931, and Edward Johnston came up with the iconic red and blue bar and circle symbol used on everything from signs to staff badges.
One of the new audiences that we're seeking to attract are people interested in the kind of look and feel of London, in its design, its architecture, graphic design in particular. Our collections are terrifically strong in those areas. Posters, the underground map, the roundel, fantastic architecture on the tube lines. And we're able to show those stories and that material much better in the new museum than we were in the old. So, for example, the old museum had no posters in it. As such, here we have 120.
Striking publicity posters turned the underground into a huge public art gallery. The museum holds an archive of more than 5,000 posters and artworks covering over a century of graphic design. The unstable environment of the old museum prevented their display, but the refurbishment means they can be changed regularly to show a wide range of the collection. The posters give an interesting insight into the social history of the time.
As the city grew and the transport systems grew, people had to find ways of cheaply and conveniently taking transport either to get to work or anything else. And that's been the same in cities elsewhere as well. And actually finding out some of that and relating it to individuals' personal stories, and we've got a lot of that both from the past and the present, I think can tie people in to what living in the city is all about in a way that perhaps in the old museum we weren't able to do.
Interactive displays bring the museum into the 21st century. This map of London shows facts and figures about London transport and follows individual Londoners on their daily journey across the capital. Special CCTV cameras set up at various locations give live coverage of the city's roads. But increasing concerns over global warming and climate change mean that alternative modes of public transport are vital if we are to protect the planet. These hydrogen buses are in operation on various routes around London. They are powered on hydrogen and fuel cells and only emit water vapour.
You have to look at how the effects of climate change are going to be managed. And of course, one of the means of managing climate change is to continue to move people from environmentally unsound forms of transport into public modes of transport. So the whole future part of the exhibition looks at public transport as a response to climate change. And we look at what London might be like in 2055. We engage our visitors to examine their own behaviours and attitudes towards the city in the future and to test that out with an exciting interactive in the exhibition. So they'll come away with perhaps an enhanced sense of how they have to change what they do, as well as demanding things of their politicians.
The newest display interprets the future of London's transport for the first time. It explores what London might be like in 2055, based on the lifestyle choices we make today. Visitors are given the opportunity to explore ways in which they can reduce their carbon footprint, such as developing a system of carbon credits or simply cycling to work.
I'm delighted. A long project like this, it's taken 6 years to deliver. I think we've genuinely achieved just about everything we set out to do six years ago. I was looking through some of the early documentation on the project this week, and I think that's a remarkable achievement for my team here to manage that. And our opening, of course, is not a finish, but just the start.
The new museum successfully charts the exciting developments of London's transport, linking it to the growth of the capital's wealth, culture and society. High-tech interactive displays alongside fascinating historical vehicles and artifacts offer something to visitors of all ages from all over the world. Transport will continue to be a vital part of shaping the future of all our cities. By highlighting the challenges of climate change, the museum hopes to take London towards a much greener future.